This meeting is being recorded. All right. Another episode of the Square and Compass podcast. Happy to be finally doing more of these after really a lot of months of doing more written work and YouTube shorts and social media content. Back to long form podcasting. Back with most worshipful brother Brad Phillips, Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of Arkansas. Welcome back.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So last time you were on the podcast, which in some ways it feels like it was yesterday, but other ways it feels like it was a lot longer, right? We talked about hillbilly tuxedo degree, which is something, to my knowledge, is unique to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And although I'd say we should bring it to Ontario, just my personal opinion. But I want to talk to you today about something that I kind of stumbled across it through a Facebook group, I believe. The Master Mason Lecturer Proficiency Program, which is there are different types of proficiency programs in different jurisdictions. So I believe there are similar programs in other jurisdictions, but from your perspective as Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of Arkansas, what can you tell me about the Master Mason Lecturer Proficiency Program? What is it? What's its purpose, and how has it been going for you?
Okay, sure. We started this about April of 2023. Here in Arkansas, nothing is written down as far as our adopted work. None of our degree work is written down. None of our lectures are written down at all. It's all word to mouth with a mentor and a candidate. Well, when you're entered apprentice and fellowcraft, we have a 6-month time limit that you need to learn your proficiency and turn it in before you can progress to the next degree. For the Master Mason degree, it has a proficiency or a lecture as well, but there's really no set time limit in our laws. So, I mean, you may have a guy here, a couple up into several years that never really turns in his lecture because there's not an official time limit on it. So he's like, well, I'm still working on it. So last year, our Grandmaster Chris George came up with this program. Is kind of it's an incentive program for those guys to get that committed to memory and turn it into open lodge so that they can get a certificate. And what it is you just fill out an application for it, and it tells the secretary the day he turned it in, and the name of the brother that did turn it in. He has to enter it into our computer database system for the date, and I believe it's $20. And what they get on that is they get a lapel pin and they get a certificate with their name on it, and that gets presented to them so the lodge can present the certificate to them upon the completion of their lecture. And that way it's kind of it's an incentive for them to turn in.
What was the genesis of the program? Like, we're talking back about when the Grand Master first developed it. Was the intention, was the desire, the intention to, like you said, incentivize, encourage proficiency, encourage Masons to go through their proficiency? Like, what was kind of the thinking behind it? What was the concern that was being seen that is being addressed?
Well, like I said, in our laws, it specifically says you've got 6 months to turn in your entered apprentice and your fellowcraft, but it does not for your master's degree lecture. Some of our lodges, and it's really just it's up to an individual lodge basis as far as what they want to do, as far as their bylaws go. Some of them go ahead and restrict sitting in a principal officer chair, a junior warden, senior warden, worshipful master, to only those people that have turned in their master's proficiency or their lecture. If you haven't turned that in, then you can't sit those chairs. Other lodges, they don't have that requirement. And if there's really no incentive to go through the chairs, as far as that goes, they can just go ahead and go on through, never have to commit that to memory, and they can be members, for their entire Masonic career, 40, 50 years, and actually never have to turn that lecture in. So the Grand Master wanted to try to encourage those guys to turn that in, and without going in and kind of strong arming everybody with changing a law and doing all that. He kind of did like a reward system. If you go ahead and do it, we'll get you a pin and a certificate. And it's really been successful this past year. We've had a lot of people that have gone on and turned in their lectures. The newer Master Masons, especially, have all pretty well turned in, and we've had an increase in our existing members, even our past masters. Go ahead and go back and commit that to memory, turn it in so they can get that certificate and that pin. And so it's helped out a lot on as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up to you. Where are you seeing the response? I can imagine a lot of newer Masons who are progressing kind of early in their journey, maybe incentivized. But you mentioned just there, right? You've had some older Master Masons who haven't turned in their proficiencies, going back and doing so. So have you seen
Right.
this helping the interest in your, maybe some guys who for whatever reason never got around to it and are now returning to this work? And is it encouraging guys to kind of check that off the list?
Yeah, absolutely it is. And just like you said, that the older guys, they would go in and they may just, oh yeah, I'm still working on it, I'm working on it, and they just keep putting it off and putting it off. Well, when the program came out and they started seeing a lot of the younger Masons wearing these lapel pins, and because they would wear them whenever they visit or go do whatever, they would ask them what that pin was, and they would tell them was because I turned in my lecture, and that would kind of, well, I kind of like that pin. I like the way that looks. I'll go ahead and start working on mine too, so I can get the same thing. And so that's really what has helped out a lot is just the new pen design and them going back and looking at it, because it is a daunting task to be able to do that. There's 14 parts in the master's obligation alone, and of course that's just the center 1/3. You've got a third of the questions beforehand and then afterwards too. So I mean, to be able to turn in our lectures, probably a good 10 to 15 minutes of back and forth with you and your mentor in front of everybody in the lodge room. And of course, some people are not really too enthusiastic about getting up in front of people when they don't have to, and so it really has helped out a lot as far as getting the older members, um, incentivized to go back and get them enthusiastic about the ritual again and get their lectures turned in.
And from that perspective, the idea of certificates, of pins, right, of incentivizing this work, more broadly speaking, like how much of that, and this is more of a general question, right? How much of that do you think falls on the Grand Lodge or at the Grand Lodge level versus the lodge level, right? Do you think that lodges are doing enough to, in my jurisdiction, it would be similar thing would be having a brother prove to get it, his Master Masons. Like, what are some of the things that a lodge can do to maybe incentivize or encourage some of these brothers to move through and get their proficiencies?
Yeah, one of them for sure that helps out the lodges to have these guys turn in is have it in their bylaws that they have to have it turned in before they can sit as a principal officer. And that's really helped out those guys in those particular lodges. The issue that we're seeing is a lot of our lodges don't have that requirement. So that's why we came up with this certificate program here. But that would be one of the main reasons, or one of the main ways that a local lodge could promote that, to have them go ahead and go on through, learn their lecture, get it done, and get it turned in. So that way, if they ever wanted to be, junior warden or worshipful master or anything at all, they would have to turn that in. Because in order to be able to run or to campaign and qualify for a Grand Lodge office, whether it be district deputy or in the Grand Line at all, you have to be a past master. And if you're a member of that lodge, you'll never be a past master if you don't turn in your lecture. So that's kind of a more if they have any kind of ambition at all of progressing their career as far as on the state level, they would have to have that turned in order to pass through the chairs to get that done.
And you've sent me links to some items, but in terms of the promotion of this program, right? What has the Grand Lodge of Arkansas been doing for that in terms of getting the word out to the lodges? I think every Grand Lodge, or in my experience, one of the biggest challenges between a lodge and its Grand Lodge and vice versa is the ability to communicate. Sorry, hold on just 1 second. All right, the meeting's back to being recorded. I had to step away there for a second. I was saying we're doing some renovation work on the building, and there's always something to be doing when we're doing that. So we were, still are discussing the Master Mason Lecturer Proficiency Program, and I think we kind of left off on talking about what a lodge can do, what a lodge should do to encourage, as well as the Grand Lodge, and then the communication piece, right? So I think one of the biggest challenges I've noted is it can be challenging for a lodge to maintain regular communication with Grand Lodge and vice versa, because people are busy. Secretaries are usually the busiest of all, right? Or how has the Grand Lodge of Arkansas been communicating this program to its lodges, and what's the response been like from lodges?
Okay. When we started the program, we really started off with a 4 different areas of being able to promote this. And like I said, communication is really key in all of these different things. So when I took over as Grand Secretary in 2019, I was trying to really think about how could we actually reach the younger members plus the older members, because they all get their communications differently. Our older members like to have written word. I mean, they want to see a letter or they want to see something like that. The younger members, not so much. They're more of digital age, emails, videos, stuff like that. So about 2020, about the COVID area, I started doing Facebook videos, and I would post it on our Grand Lodge Facebook page. And then, of course, we have a private group as well. If we're talking about any kind of Masonic related business goes, I would put it on our private Facebook page. But I went to the Grandmaster last year and I asked him that question. I said, how would you like us to promote this, Grandmaster? And we come up with 4 areas that we can actually do this. And we was going to go to, first of all, I did a video on it on social media. As far as that goes, got a good response from a lot of folks as far as the younger members, and some of our more seasoned members are also on there as well. They're getting used to Facebook now and seeing that. But for those that don't, in Arkansas, not every area in Arkansas it has got real reliable internet service. So we have to send out letters as far as that goes. So we sent letters to all of the lodge secretaries. That way the lodge secretary can print that letter out, or he has the letter in his hand. He can take that to the lodge meeting and actually read the letter with all the the promotional stuff in it, with the application and all the information. That way he can post it on their lodge bulletin board. That way all their members can see it. Then we have our DDGMs. Our DDGMs, our district deputies, when they make their official visit last year, they were to promote it, to talk about it as well, and kind of answer any questions that the members might have had.
Sorry, just out of curiosity, how many districts are there in Arkansas? How many DDGMs
Well,
you got?
they change pretty well from year to year, whatever the Grandmaster wants. Last year we had 20 districts, and I believe we've increased that this year a couple of districts, but it'll remain within the low 20s, 20 to 22, something like that is what we have here in Arkansas. Over I believe we have 183 lodges now in Arkansas. So scattered throughout. And then of course, when they're wearing their lapel pin around, that helps out a lot when they're just going to degree work and visiting other lodges. That promotes it as well. So we promote it on social media. We'll promote it electronically through emails and written letters, and of course spoken word of mouth. And then people actually see it visually when they see the lapel pin on their collars. So um, that's been really effective for us as far as being able to get that out there.
And response wise, what type of responses has the Grand Lodge been getting? Like, are you seeing a lot of engagement, for example, in the Facebook posts? Are DDGMs? I'm assuming, and I could be incorrect, but I'm assuming it's a similar process in Arkansas as here, whereas the DDGM does his official visit, then submits a report on the lodge, its performance, and its operations. Are DDGMs making any comments about the program in their reports as to how it's received by lodges? The lapel pins, or like what type of response have you been receiving from these efforts at communication and promotion?
Yeah, they actually they do comment and on the program, on the videos. We leave comments open on the videos. That way we can get feedback from them, because we don't know if anything's effective if we turn off comments. If they can't talk back to us, and that kind of defeats the purpose. It's just us commenting on them. So, but yeah, they give us their feedback on the videos, and they give the feedback to the DDGMs. And it seems to me like we've had a steady uh, stream of applications. We'll go anywhere about 6 to 8 a week is what we're putting out steadily over the past year. So we're steadily seeing a progressive amount of applications come through for these pins.
And what type of comments are you receiving, for example, on the videos? Are they mostly positive, more questions? Like, what is the actual content of the responses been?
Most all of them have been positive. A lot of the questions were, why didn't you already have this? This is a great idea. We should have done this years ago pretty well. That was a majority of the consensus that I got from them. Because they were really pleased with it. So it's overall really positive as far as the response we got on it.
Now, yeah, and it's on my bucket list, and it was on my bucket list when I did the interview with you the first time around. Arkansas is still on my list. I've never had the pleasure or the honor of visiting a lodge in Arkansas, but just more generally, how are things? I know this is a big question and not so easy to answer in short form, but how are things going in Arkansas Masonically, right? It's like, how are your lodges? I'm assuming that you guys in Arkansas probably started your in-person meetings before we did in terms of returning from COVID. I think Ontario is one of the later jurisdictions. Every jurisdiction does it differently, right? But just since COVID, since the return to in-person meetings and everything like that, how has it been going, and we're still relatively early. How is 2024 going for yourself and for Masonry in Arkansas?
Um, COVID was pretty difficult getting through. We started back up in 2021. The state allowed us to start. They started reducing the restrictions on it, and we were able to start having our in-person meetings again. Some of these lodges, some of the smaller lodges, people just got used to staying at home. During that whole 3-4 month period that they weren't able to go, or however long COVID lasted, and then they were still kind of leery about showing up and going around. But since probably mid 2021, 2022, participation has, got back to normal again. And, we're back basically where we were. Hopefully, I'm thinking we are, as far as participation goes within the lodges, back to our normal numbers. We have a steady influx of petitions for new members every year, and affiliations and reinstatements and things of that nature. We actually, this past February is when our grand communication is, and this past year I did a comparison with the 2023 numbers versus the 2022 numbers, and everywhere that I looked, our reinstatements were up, our affiliations were up, our raising new master masons were up slightly, and our suspension numbers were down, and our demits were down from the previous years. Like I told the guys in February, of course, we're just like every other jurisdiction. We lose members every year because of death. And then I told the guys, I said, there's nothing you can do about someone passing away. You can't help that. If they pass away, they pass away. But the areas that you can help, you're helping. You're doing your job as far as going out, promoting the masonry in the community and doing what you need to do. We've seen that quite a bit. Our lodges are engaging their communities more, and the communities are responding by getting petitions back in with them. They're drawing interest. So in the areas that they can actually help, they're doing a good job, and we're chugging along pretty good.
Well, I mean, I plan to live forever, so
Right, absolutely. I told my kids
I,
last night I'm going to be 115 at least.
I mean, I'm so far so good. I'm still here, so I must be doing something right. You know,
Absolutely.
I remember I attended Missouri. Was it Missouri? Yeah, Missouri's annual communication, and the Grand Master, I believe it was the outgoing Grand Master, or maybe it was the outgoing, held up a service pin, and it was a 100-year service pin, and he said, um, based on how long some people are living now, he said it's not crazy to think that there may be a time when I'm able, when not myself, but when somebody's able to give out a 100-year service pin to I forget the age, either 119 or 121-year-old Mason. He said it's not crazy to think that, and he put up the coin, and he's not. I'm 40, and getting out of bed is a challenge if I sleep wrong. So I don't see myself making it to 100 and anything. But Missouri is
Right.
going for it, so good for them.
Absolutely. Good deal.
Now, the going back to the Master Mason Proficiency Program, right? I do kind of want to. I'm curious, and I've heard whenever I talk to different Grand Lodges about whatever program it is that they're operating or running or starting or implementing, there's no right or wrong answer. But I'm always curious, to what extent do they look for or use as inspiration other ideas from other jurisdictions, from other Grand Lodges? In some cases, like with our Grand Lodge, their updated lodge management system, they kind of got inspiration from different areas. So for the Master Mason Proficiency Program, did the Grand Lodge of Arkansas, did you have any inspiration from other Grand Lodges? Did you look at what other jurisdictions were doing, or maybe even things in your own jurisdiction that you've done in the past? Like, was there any inspiration taken, or was this kind of as much as anything can be like a homegrown initiative?
Yeah, it was talked about a couple of years ago. Yeah, I'm talking about probably 21, 22, right after COVID. We had some discussion, of course, about our laws, where there's no requirement as far as a time limit goes to turn in your proficiency. So there was a little bit of discussion about trying to change our laws where it was required. Of course, it wouldn't be made retroactive. All of those guys that were in would be fine. They wouldn't have to, but actually establishing a time limit for the master's proficiency from that point forward. And it was kind of shoved to the side in lieu of this proficiency program because the mindset was, well, instead of forcing them to do it, let's go ahead and give them a reason to do it. Don't be kind of dictatorial about it. Give them the option. Say, look, this is a promotional thing. You can get this if you do this. You can get a certificate and a pin rather than trying to force them to do it, because nobody really likes to be forced to do anything. And it's never been established as far as a time limit goes to turn this Master Mason in, proficiency in. The only thing our bylaws say that is that when they get their master's degree, they should be instructed that he is required to turn it in, but there's no time limit on it. But he's instructed he should endeavor the most possible to try to turn this in. But as far as the time limit goes, the law stops shy of giving an official time limit on it. So rather than be forceful about it, they started this program to try to incentivize it so that they would turn it in on their own. So hopefully and we've seen real progress with this program. So I don't foresee us going back to the drawing board and pulling out the old argument to go ahead and change the law to put that time limit on there. I think everything's going to stay like it is.
So the last question I got for you is, moving aside from coffee moving aside, I have my coffee, moving aside from the Master Mason Lecturer Proficiency Program, just to yourself, what's next on the agenda for yourself as Grand Secretary? You got the Grand Communication or annual communication coming up. I'm sure there's a ton of lodge visits, right? But what's the agenda for the Most Worshipful Brother Phillips from Arkansas?
Well, of course, we've got a busy schedule as far as the southeastern United States. Our conferences, all the Grand Lodges, are going to start having their annual communications. Well, they actually started in Tennessee this past March, last week. We just got back from Nashville. And at the end of this month, we're going to be going to South Carolina for their session. Louisiana is this month as well. So we'll have a lot of visitations to go through coming up. And then, of course, August is when our Southeastern Masonic Conference starts, and it just goes on until, the end of November with Alabama. But as far as Arkansas specific, I know we are going to have our statewide master's degree is going to be on the 13th of this month. So actually next Saturday, we're going to have a candidate from just south of Little Rock here. He's going to come to the Grand Lodge building, and we're going to have a big master's degree for him and invite all of the other lodges throughout the state to do. That's an annual thing that we do as far as have a statewide master's degree. And the Grand Lecturer's degree team, they actually put on the second half of the degree. The Grand Lodge officers, the Grand Master actually confers the degree. All the Grand Lodge officers are in the first section, and they're going to have a big dinner and a big lunch. And then the following month in May, we have our festive board, or table lodge is what we have for the state. We usually have one of those 1 year, and all the proceeds from that goes to the Grand Master's given charity or whatever he wants to promote. So we'll have that coming up. This year is going to be a little bit different, though. It's been in the past where the Grand Masters only wanted to invite just the Master Masons for the dinner. This Grand Master this year, our Grand Master Daryl Gifford, he came in this past February, so he's got a little over a month under his belt. He's decided to revamp that a little bit this year and include the wives of the Master Masons too, to have the kind of a night out as a couple. So we have a steak dinner and everything every year. He wants to keep the menu the same, but he wants to invite the wives to enjoy a little bit of the evening with us, and then he'll have a speaker, some entertainment stuff to go along with that. So, and then I believe later on we're going to be hosting a night down here at the Grand Lodge. It's going to be kind of like a pizza night for our youth groups, for our DMLA guys. They're going to be allowed to come in here. We're going to feed them pizza, watch a movie, and just have a good time with them down here at the Grand Lodge building. And that should get us into probably June or July. Yeah, July, when he wants to have his mid-year conference. So things are picking up this year. They're steady, but they're going to pick up.
Steady is good. Picking up is good, right? You want to be on that trajectory, right? And so,
absolutely,
right. And yeah, it does sound like you got a busy schedule, but I'm really happy to hear. Well, I thought it was all great, but really happy to hear that you have, your active youth group. We have Rainbow here in Windsor, which is really active and doing a really great job. But
Great.
it's great to hear not only that you have the youth groups, but that the Grand Lodge is so supportive of them, even letting them use your building, right?
Mhm.
For pizza and movie night. That's going to be awesome, I am sure.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, and that's wonderful, right? And that's, those youth groups are one of those things that it depends on the jurisdiction, I think, but I feel like they often don't get the recognition as to their importance to the craft, um, whether it be Rainbow or DMLA or different jurisdictions, right? So yeah, I think that's awesome. Very, very cool on the Grand Lodge of Arkansas for doing that. How is DMLA doing there? Is it pretty well? I mean, I don't know a lot of the stats for DMLA out, in North America, but I feel like in most jurisdictions it's on the decline. What's it like in Arkansas right now?
I believe we're doing okay in Arkansas. We've actually we have got some interest from some different chapters. We went and actually had some of our guys go and install some new officers, trying to revamp and revitalize some of those chapters in the western part of the state over the past year. We've had two, one in Fort Smith and one in Fayetteville. They've just recently had their guys, and we at the last conclave last year, I believe in the last, I don't know, I think it's June. They actually chartered a new lodge just west of Little Rock in Conway. So they are actually growing. We have extra, more DMLA chapters than we have had in the past.
Good.
So they're doing good. They're doing really good. They're on an upswing.
Good for them, and good for, that says a lot about DMLA. It also says a lot about Masonry in Arkansas, right? Because you're not going to see an upswing in DMLA if you don't have the support of the Masonic lodges and the Masonic body. So
That's right.
well done. Well done, DMLA of Arkansas. I'll have to get you guys on the podcast at some point to talk. Give me a call. Leave a comment in this video. Do something. Get in touch, because it'd be great to have you guys in here. With that, most worshipful sir, thank you so much for being back on the podcast. And I I talked about this in January, right? When we had an event here at the Windsor Masonic Temple, right? I'm a secretary of my lodge, um, which means I'm responsible for the administration of one lodge in one location that meets twice a month. You as the grand secretary are responsible for the administration of however many lodges happen to be in Arkansas, over however big Arkansas is, that meet all nights of the week, and I'm sure even on an eighth day that we don't know about, a few meet. So thank you for all that you do for
Right.
Masonry in Arkansas, and to all the grand secretaries. Thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you, Brother Cameron. I appreciate it.